All right. This is APUSH Chapter 10, Part 2. And like I said in the last section, we're going to talk about the very interesting 1824 election. And what's really interesting about this election is the old Federalist Party that had been in play really since, Jefferson and Hamilton's time had actually disappeared. And so what we had in this election was we had 5 Republicans that ran. And some really big, important names. One of them was John Quincy Adams, who was, of course, the son of former President John Adams, one of our founding fathers, important in American history. You had the interesting John C. Calhoun, who we're going to be talking about pretty much up into the Civil War. He's from South Carolina, a little bit of a radical, as you'll see, but he's running for president in this time period. You had a man by the name of William Crawford, who was a high-ranking guy. You probably won't remember him too much, though. Henry Clay, who we will be talking about for a long time. He's really going to become known for something called the American System, which we're going to talk about a little bit. And then, of course, Andrew Jackson. Now, John Quincy Adams, understand, out of all these guys, he's the guy that has national recognition. His name is throughout the colonies. He's the son of the former President John Adams, very influential man. So he has that. Now, Henry Clay, he runs on a platform for his American System, which is basically the idea that the South would sell their raw cotton, instead of selling it to Britain and making Britain rich, that they'd sell it to the North, and the North would manufacture goods there. You'll see the American System is going to be kind of a big deal for the next couple of decades here. Understand that Jackson, of course, was a 2-time war hero. As a very young boy, actually, he fought in the Revolutionary War. It's kind of a message boy. He was only about 12, but the fact remains he was in that war. Of course, where he gains his fame is in the War of 1812, where he's most known for the Battle of New Orleans, of course. So he's a war hero. And also in this age of self-made men, that's Jackson's persona, is that he started off as this rough, backcountry poor guy, and then he ended up becoming a rich plantation owner. And none of that was inherited. All that he made on his own. So very important in this time period of democracy and the self-made man. Jackson wins the popular election. I mean, the majority of the Americans voted for him. They said Jackson's our guy. But as the rules were back in this time, he didn't win a majority of electoral votes. They were spread out amongst the 5 candidates. So the election results, who was going to be president, went to the House of Representatives. Well, Henry Clay was Speaker there in the House, and he ended up making a deal, backdoor deal basically, with John Quincy Adams, and he used his voice and his influence in the House to get them to elect John Quincy Adams as the President of the United States. And then John Quincy Adams is going to turn around and make Henry Clay Secretary of State, which is an enormously powerful position, really the second most powerful position in America. Well, Andrew Jackson's followers are incensed. They are just beyond themselves, and they cry foul, and they call it something called the corrupt bargain, so that you'll need to identify with the election of 1824. So they are ticked. They feel like they've been cheated, but really there's nothing else that they can do about it. Understand that John Quincy Adams is the last of our notable presidents. Those guys that were from wealthy, established families. He's very well educated, very moralistic man, incredibly rigid, not really this charismatic guy, much like his father. He wasn't very charismatic either, but he was a man with high morals and ethics. Some of the things you need to know: he sought scientific exploration in the far west. He's wanting to figure out what we have here in this country through the Louisiana Purchase and all that stuff, some of the things that Jefferson started. He's seeking to establish a uniform set of weights and measures in the United States to make us a lot more efficient. Very important there. He endorsed the American System. He is all about placing tariffs on foreign goods to protect New England manufacturing centers and stuff like that. Most of what Adams, he's a one-term president. Most of what he tries to get accomplished is going to fail because of Jackson and his cronies, if you will, his buddies. Pretty much anything he wants to get past, they're going to make sure that it doesn't. So his presidency is kind of doomed, and he really doesn't get a whole lot accomplished, even though he had some pretty good ideas. But he did pass a tariff of 1824, which becomes known as the Tariff of Abominations. The South cannot stand this tariff. It makes goods more expensive for them. We'll talk about it more in the next section.